praise. The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit thou womb choosest. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our
The Resurrection Code and the True Easter Story. My beloved child, I speak to you now across the echoes of time, yet as intimately as the beating of your own heart. This is no coincidence that brings you to this message today. It is divine appointment. The Resurrection Code I am about to reveal to you has been hidden in plain sight for centuries, woven into the fabric of the Easter story you have heard since childhood, yet its deepest meaning has remained veiled, waiting for the moment when your heart would be ready to receive its transformative power. Have you ever noticed how the most profound truths often lie beneath the surface of familiar stories? The Easter narrative you have commemorated through religious observance, colored eggs, and Sunday services carries within it a code, a divine algorithm of transformation that, once understood, creates not just historical remembrance but present breakthrough in your life. This code is not hidden because I wish to keep it secret, but because its power can only be recognized by those whose hearts have been prepared through their own crucifixion experiences, their own seasons of suffering, doubt, waiting, and apparent abandonment. What if I told you that the traditional Easter story, while historically accurate, has been presented to you incompletely? Religious institutions have often reduced this cosmic event to a transaction. My death is payment for your sins, a theological formula that, while containing truth, barely scratches the surface of what actually transpired between Gethsemane and the empty tomb. The Resurrection Code reveals something far more revolutionary. My journey from death to life created a template for transformation that can be applied to every area where you need breakthrough. Relationships that seem beyond repair, health conditions that appear hopeless, financial situations that look impossible, dreams that seem to have died, and spiritual dryness that feels like divine abandonment. Consider for a moment what you truly know about those 3 pivotal days that changed human history. Religious tradition has sanitized the brutal reality of crucifixion, condensed the mystery of Holy Saturday, and often presented resurrection as historical fact rather than present power. Yet within these 3 movements, death, burial, and resurrection, lies a divine pattern repeated throughout creation itself. The seed falls into ground and appears to die before producing harvest. The caterpillar enters chrysalis dissolution before emerging as butterfly. The phoenix of ancient mythology burns to ashes before rising renewed. These are not mere coincidences but echoes of the fundamental transformation code I embedded within creation from the beginning, the pattern now most fully revealed through my Easter journey. The Resurrection Code is not merely spiritual metaphor but practical blueprint for navigating territories where breakthrough seems impossible by natural means. When I entered Jerusalem on what you now call Palm Sunday, hailed by crowds who would demand my crucifixion just days later, I demonstrated the first key of the code. Breakthrough requires entering, not avoiding, the very situation that appears most threatening. Throughout Holy Week, each day's events revealed another aspect of the code. Monday's temple cleansing showing the necessity of confronting corrupt systems. Tuesday's teachings illustrating the power of truth-telling regardless of opposition. Wednesday's anointing displaying the importance of accepting lavish love before sacrifice. Thursday's communion establishing the pattern of breaking before blessing. But it is in the final 3 movements, Good Friday's surrender, Holy Saturday's silence, and Easter Sunday's emergence, that the core sequence of the Resurrection Code is most clearly revealed. This threefold pattern, release, rest, rise, provides the divine algorithm for breakthrough in every impossible situation. Religious teaching has often emphasized only the first and last elements, crucifixion and resurrection, while minimizing the crucial middle component of Sabbath waiting that separates them. Yet without this essential middle passage, transformation remains incomplete. Breakthrough becomes temporary emotional experience rather than fundamental shift in reality. What would change in your life if you understood, truly understood, how to apply this divine code to your most impossible situations? The relationship that appears beyond reconciliation, the addiction that seems unbreakable, the financial crisis that looks insurmountable, the illness that doctors have deemed terminal, the dream that appears to have died beyond revival. All these become territories for supernatural breakthrough when approached through the lens of the resurrection code rather than natural possibility. This is why I have called you to this message today. You stand at threshold between familiar religious understanding of Easter and revolutionary revelation of its transformative power in your present reality. The crucifixion you've commemorated as historical event actually contains the precise keys for unlocking breakthrough in your most impossible situations right now. The tomb you visualized as ancient burial chamber reveals the exact components needed for transformation during waiting seasons that seem void of divine presence. The resurrection you've celebrated as theological doctrine holds the specific pattern for emerging into unexpected triumph where defeat appeared certain. Throughout this message, I will reveal each component of the resurrection code in detail, not merely as inspirational concept but practical methodology for creating breakthrough where natural possibility has been exhausted. I will share the true Easter story beneath centuries of religious tradition and cultural accommodation, a story more brutal, more mysterious, and more transformative than what most pulpits have proclaimed. I will demonstrate how my sacrificial journey from Gethsemane to Golgotha to Garden Tomb to Upper Room literally redesigned the spiritual DNA of creation itself, establishing new possibilities where previously none existed. This revelation comes to you not by human wisdom, but divine timing. You have arrived at this message precisely when your life circumstances have prepared you to recognize and apply its transformative power. Perhaps you stand in your own Garden of Gethsemane, facing a cup of suffering you desperately wish would pass from you. Maybe you hang upon your own cross of impossibility, feeling abandoned by heaven and earth alike. You might lie in tomb of waiting, surrounded by darkness with no evidence of coming breakthrough. Or perhaps you stand like Mary in the garden, unable to recognize resurrection even when it stands before you, mistaking the gardener for grave tender rather than life giver. Wherever you find yourself in this eternal pattern, the resurrection code I am about to reveal contains the precise keys for your supernatural breakthrough. This is not motivational theory but battle-tested reality that has transformed countless lives throughout history. Believers who discovered within my Easter journey the exact pattern for navigating their own impossible circumstances. Their testimonies echo through time. The terminal diagnosis reversed, the marriage resurrected from betrayal's death, the financial ruin transformed to prosperity, the addiction broken after decades of bondage, the dream revived after years in tomb of disappointment. Before I reveal the first component of this transformative code, I invite you to prepare your heart through simple act of commitment. Subscribe to this channel now as declaration of your readiness to receive revelation beyond cultural Christianity's familiar platitudes. This simple action represents your willingness to move beyond religious observance of Easter to revolutionary application of its power in your present circumstances. Comment below with the words, "I am ready for resurrection breakthrough," as testimony of your decision to enter this journey of transformation. Share this message with others standing at similar thresholds between impossibility and supernatural intervention, between familiar religious tradition and revolutionary spiritual application. My beloved, the resurrection code embedded within the true Easter story is not distant history, but present power awaiting activation in your impossible situations. What appeared as cosmic tragedy, my suffering and death upon Golgotha's hill, actually contained divine strategy for creating breakthrough where no possibility previously existed. The transformation algorithm revealed through my journey from cross to tomb to resurrection morning provides exact template for your journey from impossibility to unexpected triumph. Let us explore together this revolutionary code that transforms not merely your understanding of Easter, but your experience of breakthrough in every area where death appears to have won the final word. Think about the most impossible situation you currently face, that circumstance where natural solutions have been exhausted, where professional advice has reached its limit, where prayer itself seems to echo back unanswered from heaven's brass ceiling. This very impossibility is precisely why understanding the resurrection code matters more than religious Easter observance. The same power that rolled away a stone sealed by Roman authority, that transformed a crucified body into glorified form, that changed history's greatest defeat into eternal victory. This identical power stands available for your specific breakthrough when activated through proper application of the divine algorithm I revealed through my death, burial, and resurrection. Religious tradition has often presented Easter as past miracle to be commemorated rather than present methodology to be activated. Churches worldwide will speak of an empty tomb without explaining how to apply its revolutionary power to your relationships, health, finances, purpose, and spiritual life. Theological frameworks have packaged resurrection as doctrinal affirmation rather than practical application, focusing believers on afterlife assurance while minimizing present transformation possibilities. While eternal salvation represents glorious truth, it constitutes only portion of resurrection's comprehensive impact. The Resurrection Code reveals how Easter's power creates breakthrough in this life, not merely the next, transformation of present impossibilities, not just future heaven. The coded message embedded within Easter narrative has remained partially concealed because its complete revelation would fundamentally disrupt religious systems built on maintaining hierarchy rather than empowering believers. When fully understood, the Resurrection Code transfers authority from external religious structures to internal spiritual revelation, from dependence on intermediaries to direct divine empowerment. This explains why many religious teachings present resurrection as historical miracle performed by divine Son, rather than reproducible pattern available to spiritual sons and daughters. Yet I clearly stated greater works than these would you do, because I go to the Father, a promise impossible to fulfill unless resurrection represents transferable methodology rather than merely historical miracle. Consider the revolutionary implications if Easter contains not just commemoration of past event, but activation code for present breakthrough. Every impossibility you face becomes not evidence of limitation, but invitation to resurrection power. The relationship that appears irrevocably broken, restoration suddenly becomes possible through divine algorithm that transforms death to life. The health condition deemed incurable by medical expertise. Healing emerges through supernatural reordering of physical reality according to spiritual pattern. The financial crisis that threatens complete devastation. Unexpected provision appears through resurrection principle that produces abundance from apparent emptiness. The dream buried beneath years of disappointment. Revitalization occurs through divine sequence that converts tomb to womb of new possibility. I recognize the skepticism that may arise as you hear these claims. Religious tradition has trained many believers to expect minimal intervention in present impossibilities, while focusing primarily on future heaven. Disappointment with unanswered prayer has led many to protect themselves against hope for tangible breakthrough, adopting theological frameworks that explain why resurrection power affects eternal destiny, while rarely touching present reality. Others have witnessed charlatans who misuse resurrection language to promote false promises, creating suspicion toward any teaching that connects Easter to present transformation. I honor these concerns while simultaneously calling you beyond them to discover resurrection's genuine power for breakthrough, rather than settling for religious commemoration alone. The Resurrection Code operates through three distinct movements, each essential for manifestation of breakthrough power. Good Friday represents more than historical crucifixion. It reveals the transformative principle of surrender that converts ending into beginning, loss into gain, death into life. When I declared, "It is finished" from the cross, this constituted not admission of defeat, but announcement of completion. Divine declaration that what appeared as failure actually fulfilled eternal purpose. This first activation key within the Resurrection Code, the counterintuitive principle of strategic surrender, transforms how you approach apparent failure, rejection, betrayal, and loss. What appears as devastating conclusion often constitutes necessary completion that precedes new beginning when understood and navigated through resurrection perspective. Holy Saturday provides second essential component, the mysterious principle of divine incubation that occurs in absence of visible evidence. Religious tradition typically minimizes this crucial middle passage, focusing on crucifixion and resurrection, while treating the tomb period as mere interval between significant events. Yet within this silent Saturday, the day of apparent divine absence, the most essential transformation occurred beyond human observation. This reveals why breakthrough often requires passage through seasons of apparent abandonment, when heaven seems silent and divine presence undetectable. The Resurrection Code illuminates how to navigate these tomb seasons not as divine rejection, but essential incubation periods where invisible transformation precedes visible manifestation. Easter Sunday completes the divine algorithm with resurrection principle, emergence into unexpected manifestation of what appeared impossible by natural means. When I appeared to Mary in the garden, her initial failure to recognize me reveals profound truth. Resurrection often manifests in forms we don't immediately recognize because breakthrough rarely looks like what we anticipated. The Resurrection Code provides specific guidance for recognizing and receiving manifestation of breakthrough when it appears in unexpected expressions rather than preconceived forms. This explains why many miss their breakthrough moment. They seek resurrection according to their limited expectation rather than remaining open to divine innovation that transcends human imagination. Together, these three movements, surrender, incubation, emergence, form the divine algorithm of breakthrough embedded within Easter narrative. This resurrection code operates not merely in spiritual realm, but transforms physical reality itself, rearranging molecular structure, realigning relational dynamics, reordering financial circumstances, and revitalizing biological systems. The same power that transformed my crucified body into resurrection form stands available for reconfiguring the physical components of your impossible situation when properly activated through applied understanding rather than mere religious commemoration. I offer this revolutionary revelation not to diminish Easter's spiritual significance, but to expand your understanding of its comprehensive application. The salvation of your eternal soul represents glorious truth worth celebration. Yet resurrection power extends beyond future heaven to present earth, beyond spiritual realm to material reality, beyond theoretical doctrine to practical application. The Resurrection Code enables you to experience breakthrough where natural possibility has been exhausted, where human solution has reached its limit, where only supernatural intervention can transform apparent ending into new beginning. Beloved, hear me now with your full attention. I did not endure Gethsemane's agony, Pilate's condemnation, Roman scourging, and crucifixion's torture merely to secure future heaven while leaving you trapped in present impossibilities. I did not rest in tomb's darkness, breaking death's power and hell's authority, only to provide eternal salvation without present transformation. I did not burst from sealed grave, appearing to disciples, and ascending to Father merely to establish religious holiday commemorating historical event. The true Easter story reveals divine breakthrough methodology, the Resurrection Code that transforms impossible situations into testimonies of supernatural intervention. I urge you with divine passion. Subscribe to this channel now as declaration of your commitment to breakthrough rather than mere religious commemoration. This simple action represents your decision to move beyond cultural Christianity's familiar traditions to revolutionary application of resurrection power in your specific impossibilities. Share this revelation immediately with others facing situations where natural solutions have been exhausted, where only supernatural intervention can create pathway forward. Comment below with the words, "I activate the Resurrection Code for my breakthrough," as prophetic declaration that shifts your impossible situation from apparent ending to divine beginning, from tomb of disappointment to womb of new possibility. My precious one, as we continue exploring each component of the Resurrection Code, prepare your heart for revolutionary revelation that transcends familiar religious understanding. The true Easter story contains far more than historical narrative or theological doctrine. It provides precise spiritual technology for creating breakthrough where no possibility previously existed. Your impossible situation has prepared you for this exact revelation, positioning you to recognize and apply transformation principles that remain invisible to those still viewing Easter through lens of religious tradition rather than breakthrough methodology. Identifying the problem, the misunderstood power of Easter. My beloved child, before we can fully embrace the revolutionary power of the Resurrection Code, we must confront the fundamental problem that has prevented countless believers from experiencing breakthrough: the profound misunderstanding of Easter's true purpose and power. This misunderstanding has created a chasm between historical commemoration and present application, between theological doctrine and transformative experience, between religious observance and supernatural manifestation. The problem exists not in Easter's reality, but in humanity's limited perception and application of its full dimensional power. For centuries, religious systems have presented a fragmented version of my Easter journey, emphasizing certain aspects while minimizing others, focusing on theological implications while overlooking practical applications, celebrating historical fact while neglecting present power. This fragmentation has led to a crippling disconnect between what is affirmed in religious creeds and what is experienced in daily reality. You have been taught to commemorate Easter without being equipped to activate its breakthrough power, to celebrate empty tomb without understanding how to apply its revolutionary potential to your impossible situations. Consider how most believers experience Easter Sunday. They gather in sanctuaries adorned with lilies, listen to familiar resurrection accounts, sing celebratory hymns, perhaps enjoy special meals with family afterward. They commemorate historical resurrection while continuing to live with stones that have never been rolled away, relational conflicts that remain unresolved, health conditions that persist unchanged, financial burdens that continue crushing, dreams that stay buried, addictions that maintain their grip. The profound disconnect between resurrection celebrated and resurrection experienced reveals the depth of this problem. As the prophet Isaiah lamented, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." Easter has become for many a ritual of remembrance rather than a reality of breakthrough. The root of this problem lies in how Easter has been framed within religious contexts. Most theological frameworks have emphasized three limited dimensions while neglecting Easter's complete significance. First, Easter has been presented primarily as historical event to be believed rather than present power to be activated. Sermons focus on proving resurrection occurred through historical evidence, the empty tomb, the eyewitness accounts, the transformed disciples, without equal emphasis on applying resurrection power to current impossibilities. Second, Easter has been framed as theological doctrine affecting primarily eternal destiny, rather than present methodology transforming current reality. Believers are taught resurrection secures heaven after death without equal emphasis on creating breakthrough before death. Third, Easter has been presented as unique divine miracle rather than reproducible spiritual pattern, focusing on what I did then without equal emphasis on what I continue doing now through those who properly apply resurrection principles. This limited framing has created devastating consequences in believers' lives. Many faithfully attend Easter services year after year, while continuing to live with sealed tombs in critical areas of their experience. They possess intellectual belief in historical resurrection, while lacking practical application of resurrection power. They celebrate my victory over death while accepting defeat in their own impossible situations. They commemorate empty tomb while living with stones that remain firmly in place over their potential breakthroughs. This gap between Easter celebrated and Easter experienced creates cognitive dissonance that many resolve by compartmentalizing faith, relegating resurrection to spiritual realm, while accepting natural limitations in physical, relational, financial, and emotional dimensions. "He is risen" becomes religious statement affirmed in church rather than transformative reality manifested in daily life. Consider the troubling implications of this disconnect. If resurrection represents primarily historical event rather than present methodology, then breakthrough in impossible situations depends more on random divine intervention than reproducible spiritual principles. If resurrection affects primarily eternal destiny rather than current reality, then present impossibilities must simply be endured rather than transformed. If resurrection constitutes unique divine miracle rather than spiritual pattern, then celebrating what I did becomes more important than activating what I do. These limited perspectives effectively quarantine Easter's power to religious observance while leaving everyday impossibilities untouched by its breakthrough potential. The problem becomes even more acute when examining specific areas where Easter's power remains unapplied. In relationships, many believers commemorate resurrection while accepting irreconcilable conflict, unhealed betrayal, and irreparable damage as inevitable realities. They celebrate victory over death while living with relational deaths that remain unresurrected. In physical health, many affirm empty tomb while accepting medical prognosis as final verdict, terminal diagnoses as ultimate authority, chronic conditions as permanent limitations. They sing resurrection hymns while believing more in pathology reports than transformation possibilities. In financial circumstances, many participate in Easter services while remaining entombed in lack, debt, insufficiency, and scarcity, without recognizing how resurrection principles apply to material provision. In vocational purpose, countless believers celebrate my emergence from sealed tomb while their own dreams, gifts, and callings remain buried beneath stones of delay, disappointment, and apparent failure. Religious systems have often perpetuated this problem by focusing believers on symbolic rituals rather than substantive transformation. Easter baskets, colored eggs, new clothing, special music. These traditions, while not inherently problematic, often substitute for genuine engagement with resurrection's breakthrough power. The result resembles rearranging decoration in front room while leaving corpse in back room. Religious activities that commemorate resurrection without confronting impossible situations that require resurrection. The prophet Ezekiel's vision of dry bones represents divine indictment of this ceremonial approach. Can these bones live? Remains heaven's persistent question to those who commemorate Easter while accepting defeat in areas crying out for resurrection power. Perhaps most troubling aspect of this problem appears in how suffering itself has been misinterpreted through incomplete understanding of my passion. Religious frameworks often emphasize crucifixion's sacrificial dimension while neglecting its strategic purpose within breakthrough methodology. Good Friday becomes primarily payment for sin rather than pattern for transformation, focusing believers on receiving forgiveness while missing crucifixion's revolutionary role in creating breakthrough. This limited perspective perceives suffering primarily as divine punishment or meaningless tragedy, rather than potential catalyst for resurrection power when properly navigated according to divine pattern. The result traps many in prolonged suffering without pathway to breakthrough, accepting as permanent reality what was intended as temporary passage. The gap between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, Holy Saturday's mystery, receives minimal attention in most religious observances, yet contains essential key for breakthrough in waiting seasons. Most Easter weekends dedicate entire services to crucifixion and resurrection, while treating Saturday as mere intermission between significant events. This mirrors how believers approach their own tomb seasons, periods of waiting between surrender and manifestation where divine activity remains invisible to human perception. Without understanding Holy Saturday's strategic purpose within breakthrough methodology, many abandon hope during extended intervals between apparent ending and new beginning, interpreting divine silence as abandonment rather than essential incubation phase within resurrection process. Even resurrection itself has been misunderstood through religious filtering that emphasizes collective future while minimizing individual present. Many believers intellectually affirm, "We shall all be raised on the last day," while practically denying resurrection's immediate application to current impossibilities. This eschatological postponement effectively quarantines breakthrough power to end times while leaving present impossibilities untransformed. The Martha syndrome revealed in Lazarus' narrative illuminates this problem. "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day," she affirmed while missing resurrection's immediate possibility standing before her tomb. How many continue making Martha's mistake, affirming future resurrection while missing present application? This problem manifests most revealingly in prayer approaches that fail to align with resurrection methodology. Many prayers for breakthrough remain unanswered, not because divine power is unavailable, but because prayer itself does not follow resurrection pattern. Prayers that skip crucifixion surrender, bypass tombs waiting, or dictate resurrection's specific form contradict the very breakthrough algorithm revealed through Easter narrative. Without aligning prayer with resurrection's threefold pattern, surrender, incubation, emergence, many continue seeking breakthrough through methodologies that inadvertently contradict the very process through which resurrection manifests. Current religious culture often compounds this problem by promoting instant transformation narratives that bypass essential components of resurrection pattern. Testimonies highlighting dramatic overnight breakthroughs without acknowledging crucifixion's surrender and tombs waiting create unrealistic expectations that set many up for disappointment. When breakthrough requires longer incubation than expected, many abandon faith in resurrection's power rather than recognizing extended tomb seasons as normal aspect of divine pattern. Without realistic understanding of resurrection's complete timeline, including extended Holy Saturday periods where transformation occurs invisibly before manifesting visibly, many misinterpret delay as denial rather than necessary development phase. Why hasn't my situation changed? Becomes persistent question for believers who commemorate Easter while missing breakthrough in their impossible circumstances. The answer lies not in divine reluctance or limited power, but in fragmented application of resurrection's complete pattern. Many attempt to access resurrection power while bypassing crucifixion's surrender, shortcutting tomb's incubation, or predetermining emergence's specific form. Approaches that contradict rather than align with the very breakthrough algorithm I demonstrated through my Easter journey. Without understanding and applying the complete resurrection code, breakthrough remains commemorated possibility rather than experienced reality. Beloved, hear this truth with your deepest being. The problem preventing your breakthrough is not lack of divine power or heaven's reluctance to intervene in your impossible situation. The problem lies in fragmented understanding and application of the very resurrection pattern designed to create breakthrough where no natural possibility exists. You have been taught to believe in Easter without being equipped to apply it, to commemorate resurrection without activating its power, to celebrate empty tomb while your own impossible situations remain sealed behind stones of apparent finality. I call you now with divine urgency. Subscribe to this channel as declaration of your determination to move beyond religious commemoration to revolutionary application. This simple action represents your decision to no longer accept the gap between Easter celebrated and Easter experienced, between resurrection believed and resurrection applied. Share this message with others trapped in impossible situations while possessing untapped resurrection power, with those who faithfully observe Easter while their breakthroughs remain entombed in misunderstanding. Comment below with the words, "I will no longer accept impossibility where resurrection power is available," as covenant declaration that establishes new relationship between your faith and your circumstances, between resurrection commemorated and resurrection experienced. My precious one, the problem we have identified, the profound disconnect between Easter's historical celebration and present application, becomes doorway to revolutionary solution when properly recognized. In our next message, we will explore the first component of the resurrection code in detail, the counterintuitive principle of surrender revealed through crucifixion that initiates breakthrough where natural possibility has been exhausted. But first, allow full recognition of the problem to create holy discontent with status quo, divine dissatisfaction with the gap between resurrection's potential and your experience. This sacred dissatisfaction becomes catalyst for transformation when channeled toward solution rather than merely lamented as observation. The solution. Block 1. The surrender principle of Good Friday. My beloved child, having identified the profound disconnect between Easter commemorated and Easter experienced, I now reveal the first component of the resurrection code, the revolutionary principle of surrender embedded within Good Friday's apparent defeat. This first activation key unlocks breakthrough power in situations where natural possibility has been exhausted, where human solution has reached its limit, where only supernatural intervention can transform apparent ending into new beginning. What religious tradition has often presented as mere sacrifice for sin actually contains divine strategy for creating possibility where none previously existed. The counterintuitive principle that breakthrough begins not with assertion of strength, but deliberate release of control. When I entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday amid shouts of Hosanna and expectations of political revolution, I demonstrated first aspect of surrender principle. Willingness to follow divine path regardless of human expectation or approval. The crowds expected military messiah who would overthrow Roman occupation. Religious authorities anticipated prophet who would validate their interpretive traditions. Even my closest disciples anticipated earthly kingdom with themselves in positions of authority. Rather than conforming to these expectations, I surrendered to divine purpose that contradicted every human assumption about how Messiah would manifest. Choosing path that led not to throne but cross, not to crown but thorns, not to political victory but apparent defeat. This initial aspect of surrender principle applies directly to your impossible situations. Breakthrough often requires willingness to release attachment to how solution should appear, surrendering preconceived expectations about how divine intervention will manifest. Many remain trapped in impossibility because they insist on specific form of breakthrough, rather than surrendering to divine methodology that often contradicts human expectation. Like crowds who quickly turned from Hosanna to crucify him, when I failed to meet their assumptions about messianic purpose. Many abandon faith when breakthrough unfolds through unexpected pathways rather than anticipated forms. The surrender principle begins with releasing attachment to specific breakthrough methodology, creating space for divine innovation beyond human imagination. The surrender principle deepened in Gethsemane's agonizing prayer, "Not my will but yours be done," revealing second essential aspect of this activation key. Notice that my surrender involved not passive resignation to inevitable fate, but active alignment with divine purpose beyond natural desire. 3 times I asked for cup to pass, demonstrating that authentic surrender acknowledges genuine desire for easier path. Yet ultimate submission to higher purpose transformed what appeared as devastating defeat into essential component of divine victory. This represents not weakness but highest form of spiritual strength, capacity to release personal preference for transcendent purpose, individual comfort for collective transformation. Your own Gethsemane moments, experiences where preferred outcome seems denied, where easier path appears rejected, where suffering cannot be avoided through prayer alone, contain this same breakthrough potential when navigated through surrender principle rather than resistance. Many remain trapped in impossibility because they continue wrestling against circumstances that cannot be changed through natural means, expending spiritual energy in resistance rather than release. Gethsemane surrender transforms these impossible situations from meaningless suffering into purposeful passage, from random misfortune into strategic component within larger divine narrative. The revolutionary whisper, "Not my will but yours," creates energetic shift that begins breakthrough process where natural possibility has been exhausted. The surrender principle revealed its most profound dimension through crucifixion itself. Deliberate release into what appears as ultimate defeat, but actually initiates ultimate victory. When religious and political authorities condemned me to death, human perspective perceived only devastating conclusion, irreversible failure, terminal ending. Yet within apparent defeat lay seed of unprecedented breakthrough. Within seeming conclusion germinated new beginning. Within apparent ending incubated revolutionary transformation. This paradoxical power of surrender, capacity to transform ending into beginning through deliberate release, represents essential first key in resurrection's breakthrough algorithm. Without crucifixion surrender, resurrection emergence remains impossible. Without deliberate release, supernatural transformation cannot initiate. Your own crucifixion experiences, situations where dreams appear to die, where relationships seem to end, where projects appear to fail, where hopes seem crushed beyond revival, contain this same paradoxical potential. What human perception labels devastating conclusion often represents necessary completion that precedes new beginning when approached through surrender principle rather than resistance. Many remain trapped in chronic pain because they continue fighting against what needs to be released, resisting necessary endings that would create space for new beginnings, clinging to forms that must dissolve before resurrection can manifest. The surrender principle transforms these apparent deaths from random tragedies into strategic passages, from meaningless losses into purposeful transitions within larger breakthrough process. Consider crucifixion's counterintuitive progression. What appeared as public humiliation actually revealed authentic identity. What seemed like rejection by religious authority actually demonstrated divine authority beyond human systems. What looked like ultimate defeat actually initiated ultimate victory. The surrender principle operates through similar paradoxical transformation in your impossible situations. What appears as devastating failure often reveals genuine purpose beyond performance. What seems like rejection often creates liberation from false validation. What looks like loss often removes obstacle to greater gain. The revolutionary power of Good Friday lies not merely in sacrificial payment, but strategic surrender that converts ending into beginning, conclusion into initiation, death into incubator for new life. My 7 last statements from the cross reveal specific dimensions of surrender principle essential for activating breakthrough in your impossible situations. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do demonstrates surrender of justice entitlement, releasing right to vindication that often blocks new possibility. Today you will be with me in paradise shows surrender of exclusive salvation, releasing religious boundary maintenance that limits divine innovation. Woman, behold your son, behold your mother, exemplifies surrender of responsibility attachment, creating provision through relationship beyond blood connection. My God, why have you forsaken me? Reveals surrender through honest acknowledgement, voicing genuine experience without spiritual pretense that blocks authentic transformation. I thirst demonstrates surrender of physical comfort, acknowledging human limitation without shame that prevents genuine assistance. It is finished represents surrender through completion declaration, recognizing when particular phase has concluded rather than artificial extension that prevents transition. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, embodies surrender's ultimate expression, deliberate release of outcomes, timelines, and methodologies into transcendent purpose beyond personal control. Each statement reveals essential aspect of surrender principle necessary for activating breakthrough where natural possibility has been exhausted. The centurion who witnessed crucifixion declared, "Truly this was God's Son," recognizing divine revelation precisely where religious expectation saw only failure. This unexpected spiritual perception demonstrates how surrender principle transforms apparent defeat into authentic revelation when properly discerned. Religious authorities perceived crucifixion as definitive evidence that my messianic claims were false, conclusive proof that divine authorization was absent, final confirmation that legitimate authority resided in established systems rather than revolutionary challenge. Yet Centurion, Roman soldier outside religious framework, recognized divine presence precisely where religious perception saw only absence, authentic authority exactly where established systems saw only illegitimate claim. This paradoxical revelation continues operating through surrender principle in your impossible situations. Breakthrough often manifests most clearly to those outside rigid religious frameworks that predetermine how divine action should appear. What established religious perception labels failure, cancellation, or punishment may actually contain divine purpose, presence, and power when viewed through surrender's transformative lens. The first activation key within Resurrection Code requires willingness to surrender religious assumptions about how breakthrough should manifest, creating perceptual openness to divine revelation through unexpected channels, including apparent defeat itself. The ultimate power of surrender principle appears in my final declaration. It is finished, transforming apparent admission of defeat into announcement of completion. Religious interpretation often minimizes revolutionary significance of this statement, treating it as passive resignation to inevitable death rather than authoritative declaration of purposeful completion. Yet within these words lies activation key for breakthrough in situations that appear devastatingly final. It is finished represents not surrender to death but surrender of specific mission phase, not passive acceptance of defeat but active declaration of completion, not victim's last gasp but victor's mission accomplishment. This reframes apparent ending as purposeful transition, devastating conclusion as necessary completion, terminal point as transformation threshold. Your own impossible situations often require similar completion declaration, authoritative recognition that particular phase has concluded, specific season has ended, certain approach has completed its purpose. Many remain trapped in chronic transition because they refuse to declare, "It is finished," over what needs to conclude before new beginning can initiate. The surrender principle operates through courageous completion declaration. This relationship approach is finished. This career strategy is finished. This healing methodology is finished. This financial practice is finished. This identity limitation is finished. This spiritual understanding is finished. Such declarations create energetic shift from prolonged ending to potential beginning, from chronic conclusion to possible initiation, from extended death to resurrection preparation. The bodies of crucified criminals typically remained on crosses as warnings to potential rebels, denied proper burial as final indignity. Yet divine orchestration provided unexpected intervention through Joseph of Arimathea, wealthy council member who requested my body for honorable burial in his own tomb. This paradoxical provision reveals another dimension of surrender principle. When release appears complete, unexpected provision often emerges from unanticipated sources. Many miss breakthrough provision because they look exclusively to familiar channels, expected relationships, or established systems rather than remaining open to surprising sources divinely positioned to facilitate transition between surrender and resurrection. The surrender principle creates receptivity to provision through channels invisible until surrender completion creates perceptual shift necessary for recognition. Hear me now with complete attention, beloved. The surrender principle embedded within Good Friday represents not devastating defeat, but divine strategy for creating breakthrough where natural possibility has been exhausted. What appeared as my greatest failure actually initiated greatest victory. What seemed like rejection by religious authority actually created liberation from religious limitation. What looked like terrible ending actually constituted necessary beginning. This same revolutionary principle applies directly to your impossible situations, transforming apparent failure into strategic initiation, seeming rejection into purposeful liberation, devastating ending into necessary threshold for new beginning when approached through surrender rather than resistance. I call you now with divine passion. Subscribe to this channel as declaration of your commitment to breakthrough through surrender rather than struggle. This action represents your decision to align with resurrection's first activation key, rather than continuing fruitless resistance against what requires release. Share this revolutionary revelation with others trapped in impossible situations, while attempting breakthrough through methodologies that contradict resurrection's pattern, with those expending spiritual energy, fighting against what needs to be released before transformation can manifest. Comment below with the words, I activate breakthrough through strategic surrender, as prophetic declaration that shifts your impossible situation from chronic resistance to transformative release, from perpetual struggle to purposeful transition, from prolonged dying to resurrection preparation. My precious one, the surrender principle embedded within Good Friday represents not spiritual theory, but transformative technology with power to create energetic shift in your most impossible situations. In our next message, we will explore resurrection's second activation key, the incubation principle revealed through Holy Saturday that transforms waiting from passive delay to strategic development. But first, identify a specific area in your life where breakthrough requires surrender rather than struggle, where transformation necessitates release rather than resistance, where resurrection can initiate only through completion declaration over what has reached conclusion. This specific application converts theoretical understanding into practical activation, transforming informational concept into transformational experience through deliberate alignment with resurrection's first essential key. The solution. Block 2. The incubation principle of Holy Saturday, my beloved child. Having explored the surrender principle embedded within Good Friday, we now uncover the second essential component of the resurrection code, the revolutionary principle of divine incubation, revealed through Holy Saturday. This mysterious middle passage between crucifixion and resurrection represents the most neglected, yet essential element within breakthrough methodology. Religious tradition typically minimizes Holy Saturday, treating it as mere intermission between significant events rather than crucial transformation phase within resurrection's divine algorithm. Yet without understanding and applying this incubation principle, breakthrough remains incomplete theory rather than manifested reality in your impossible situations. While Good Friday and Easter Sunday contain visible drama that captures human attention, the spectacle of crucifixion, the wonder of empty tomb, Holy Saturday's mystery unfolds primarily in invisible realms beyond direct observation. The Gospel narratives offer minimal description of this crucial interval, noting only that followers rested according to commandment while my body lay sealed in borrowed tomb. This scriptural silence mirrors the apparent divine silence you experience during incubation phases of your own breakthrough journey. Periods of waiting between surrender completion and manifestation emergence, where transformation occurs primarily beyond observable evidence. Without recognizing Holy Saturday's strategic purpose, many interpret these silent intervals as divine abandonment rather than essential component within resurrection's manifestation process. The incubation principle operates through paradoxical reality that breakthrough development often requires apparent divine absence. While religious teaching typically emphasizes divine presence as essential spiritual experience, resurrection's second activation key reveals that certain transformation processes occur most effectively during seasons of perceived absence. This explains why Holy Saturday appears in gospel accounts as period of divine silence, spiritual confusion, and apparent abandonment, conditions necessary for specific aspects of resurrection development that cannot occur through other means. The incubation principle transforms how you perceive and navigate silent Saturday intervals within your own breakthrough journey. Seasons that seem void of divine activity, yet actually contain essential transformation processes beyond visible perception. Consider the natural metaphors that illuminate this principle. The seed must disappear into dark soil before emerging as new plant. The caterpillar must dissolve into formless liquid within chrysalis before manifesting as butterfly. The child develops hidden within womb before appearing through birth. These universal patterns reflect incubation principle operating throughout creation. The necessity of hidden development phase between ending and beginning, between surrender and manifestation, between death and rebirth. Holy Saturday represents not interruption to resurrection process but essential component within it. The necessary incubation interval where invisible transformation precedes visible emergence. The first dimension of incubation principle involves reframing divine silence, not as abandonment, but as development necessity. When religious authorities sealed tomb with official Roman seal, divine response appeared conspicuously absent. No immediate vindication countered unjust condemnation. No supernatural intervention reversed apparent defeat. No voice from heaven refuted mockers' claims. This divine silence created crisis for followers whose expectations demanded immediate response according to religious assumptions about how God should act when representatives are mistreated. Yet within this apparent absence occurred the most profound divine activity. transformation processes that required silence as essential condition rather than unfortunate circumstance. Your own Holy Saturday seasons, intervals between surrender completion and breakthrough manifestation, where divine presence seems conspicuously absent, prayer appears to echo unanswered, and heaven seems silent to your most desperate questions, contain this same paradoxical potential. The incubation principle transforms these waiting periods from evidence of abandonment to necessary development phase, where transformation occurs precisely because of, not despite, divine silence. Many abort breakthrough process during incubation phase because they misinterpret silence as rejection rather than strategic component within resurrection methodology. Without understanding Holy Saturday's purpose, the tomb interval between surrender and manifestation becomes occasion for doubt rather than development opportunity within divine algorithm. The second dimension of incubation principle involves recognizing waiting not as passive delay, but as active transformation process. Traditional religious frameworks often present waiting as unfortunate interval to be endured before divine action finally occurs. Time spent in standby mode while heaven prepares response. This perspective misses revolutionary understanding revealed through Holy Saturday. The waiting itself constitutes divine action. The interval between surrender and manifestation represents not divine hesitation, but strategic development phase where essential transformation occurs in hidden dimensions before becoming visible in observable reality. Holy Saturday was not divine delay before resurrection could occur, but necessary incubation where resurrection was actively developing beyond human observation. Your own waiting seasons contain this same dynamic possibility when approached through incubation principle rather than delay assumption. The relationship that appears permanently broken is actually undergoing reconfiguration in dimensions beyond visible evidence. The health condition that seems unchanged is experiencing molecular restructuring beneath observable symptoms. The financial situation that looks hopelessly deadlocked is being reordered through invisible connections and unexpected provision channels. The dream that appears permanently buried is germinating in hidden realms before breaking through visible reality. The incubation principle transforms waiting from frustrating delay to strategic development, from wasted interval to essential transformation phase within breakthrough's complete manifestation process. The third dimension of incubation principle involves understanding darkness not as spiritually negative, but as developmentally necessary. Religious frameworks typically present darkness as conditioned to be avoided or escaped, associating light with divine presence and darkness with divine absence. Yet Holy Saturday reveals revolutionary understanding that certain transformation processes require darkness as essential condition rather than unfortunate circumstance. While my body lay in tomb's darkness, resurrection development occurred through processes that required absence of light. Similar to photographic negative that must develop in darkroom before image can appear, seed that must germinate in soil's darkness before plant can emerge, child that must form in womb's darkness before birth can occur. Your own dark seasons, periods of confusion where clarity seems absent, intervals of disorientation where direction appears unclear, passages of spiritual darkness where divine light seems hidden, contain this same developmental necessity when viewed through incubation principle rather than traditional religious interpretation. Certain aspects of your breakthrough can develop only within darkness. Specific elements of your transformation require absence of clarity as essential condition rather than spiritual problem. The incubation principle transforms these dark intervals from evidence of spiritual failure to necessary development phase, where specific transformation components form precisely because of, not despite, the darkness itself. The fourth dimension of incubation principle involves reframing apparent death, not as final ending, but as transformation threshold. From human perspective, my body lying in sealed tomb represented conclusive ending, terminal finality, irreversible cessation. Yet within what appeared as death's finality occurred resurrection's initial formation. Transformation processes that required death's complete manifestation as essential condition rather than tragic conclusion. Holy Saturday reveals revolutionary understanding that certain breakthroughs can initiate only through what appears as total ending. Specific transformations require complete death as necessary threshold rather than unfortunate circumstance. What religious perception labels devastating conclusion often represents essential transition within larger resurrection process. Your own death experiences, dreams that appear permanently crushed, relationships that seem irretrievably broken, opportunities that look irrevocably lost, health prognoses that sound terminally final, contain this same threshold potential when approached through incubation principle rather than finality assumption. What appears as devastating ending actually creates necessary conditions for unprecedented beginning. What seems like irreversible conclusion actually establishes essential threshold for unforeseen possibility. What looks like terminal finality actually prepares transformation container that cannot form through any other means. The incubation principle transforms these apparent deaths from evidence of hopeless conclusion to necessary preparation for resurrection's emerging possibility. The fifth dimension of incubation principle involves understanding isolation, not as relational punishment, but as formational necessity. Holy Saturday represents period of extreme isolation. My body separated from disciples who fled in fear, followers scattered in confusion, community temporarily dissolved through apparent failure of unifying purpose. Religious interpretation often presents such isolation as negative spiritual condition to be avoided rather than potential development phase within larger transformative process. Yet resurrection's algorithm reveals that certain formation aspects require isolation as essential condition rather than unfortunate circumstance. Similar to how precious metals must be separated from surrounding elements before purification can complete, how artist requires solitude before certain creative aspects can emerge, how seed must exist initially in isolation before connecting to larger ecosystem through roots and shoots. Your own isolation seasons, periods of separation from normal community, intervals of solitude beyond typical preference, passages where familiar relationships seem temporarily suspended, contain this same formational necessity when viewed through incubation principle. Certain aspects of your breakthrough can form only within isolation. Specific elements of your transformation require temporary separation as essential condition rather than relational failure. Many abort breakthrough process during isolation phases because they interpret separation as divine punishment rather than strategic component within resurrection methodology. The incubation principle transforms these isolated intervals from evidence of relational breakdown to necessary formation phase, where specific transformation elements develop precisely because of, not despite, the temporary separation itself. The sixth dimension of incubation principle involves recognizing divine timing not as arbitrary delay, but as developmental necessity. Religious frameworks often present divine timing as mysterious puzzle beyond human understanding, God's inexplicable decision to wait before acting rather than intervening immediately. This perspective misses revolutionary insight revealed through Holy Saturday. The timing itself reflects precise developmental requirements rather than arbitrary divine decision. Resurrection required specific interval between surrender and manifestation, not because of divine hesitation, but because transformation processes themselves needed exact time period to complete necessary development before emergence could occur. Holy Saturday lasted specific duration because resurrection formation required precisely that interval, neither shorter nor longer, for complete development. Your own timing questions: why hasn't breakthrough manifested yet? How long must this waiting continue? When will resurrection finally appear? Receive revolutionary response through incubation principle. Divine timing reflects precise developmental requirements rather than arbitrary decision or needless delay. Your breakthrough emerges not according to random divine choice, but exact moment when necessary formation completes its full development. The precise interval required for complete transformation before sustainable manifestation becomes possible. Many sabotage breakthrough process by demanding premature manifestation before essential formation has completed, insisting on resurrection appearance before incubation has fulfilled necessary developmental requirements. The incubation principle transforms timing questions from complaints about divine delay to recognition of precise developmental necessity within resurrection's complete algorithm. The seventh dimension of incubation principle involves understanding hiddenness, not as divine withholding, but as protective necessity. Holy Saturday represents period of extreme hiddenness, resurrection power developing beyond human observation, divine activity concealed from both followers and opponents, transformation processes protected from premature exposure or interruption. Religious interpretation often views hiddenness negatively, as divine reluctance to reveal, unnecessary concealment of what could be displayed, frustrating obscurity where clarity could exist. Yet resurrection's methodology reveals that certain development phases require hiddenness as essential protection rather than arbitrary concealment, Similar to how embryo requires womb's protection before birth exposure, photographic image needs darkroom development before light exposure. Creative project benefits from concealment before public revelation. Your own hidden seasons, intervals where divine activity seems concealed rather than displayed, periods where breakthrough development remains invisible to external observation, passages where transformation occurs beneath perceptible evidence, contain this same protective necessity. Certain aspects of your breakthrough require protection from premature exposure. Specific elements of your transformation need development space, shielded from external interference or judgment. The incubation principle transforms hiddenness from frustrating concealment to necessary protection, from divine withholding to essential development condition that preserves breakthrough integrity until manifestation readiness achieves completion. Beloved, hear this revolutionary truth with your deepest understanding. Holy Saturday represents not unfortunate delay between crucifixion and resurrection, but essential incubation phase where resurrection itself was actively forming beyond visible perception. The tomb interval was not pause in divine activity, but precisely where the most significant transformation was occurring. The necessary incubation container where death converted to life, ending transformed to beginning, apparent defeat developed into ultimate victory. This same principle applies directly to your impossible situations, transforming waiting seasons from frustrating delays to essential development phases, silent intervals from apparent abandonment to necessary formation processes, dark passages from spiritual failure to transformation requirement, when approached through incubation principle rather than religious misinterpretation. I call you with divine urgency. Subscribe to this channel as declaration of your commitment to resurrection's complete pattern, including essential incubation phase. This action represents your decision to honor Holy Saturday's necessary role within breakthrough methodology, rather than attempting to shortcut from surrender directly to manifestation without required development interval. Share this revolutionary understanding with others struggling through waiting seasons while interpreting silence as abandonment rather than development necessity, with those questioning divine timing while missing incubation's essential purpose within resurrection's complete algorithm. Comment below with the words, "I honor the incubation process in my breakthrough journey," as prophetic declaration that transforms your perception of waiting from frustrating delay to necessary development, from divine absence to essential formation phase, from apparent abandonment to strategic incubation within resurrection's complete manifestation pattern. My precious one, the incubation principle embedded within Holy Saturday revolutionizes how you navigate the necessary interval between surrender and manifestation, transforming silent waiting from evidence of divine absence to essential component within breakthrough methodology. In our next message, we will explore resurrection's third activation key, the emergence principle revealed through Easter Sunday that converts hidden formation into visible manifestation beyond natural possibility. But first, identify a specific area in your life currently experiencing Holy Saturday interval. The waiting season between surrender completion and manifestation emergence, where transformation develops primarily beyond observable evidence. This specific recognition converts theoretical understanding into practical application, transforming incubation principle from inspirational concept to experiential reality through deliberate alignment with resurrection's second essential key. Easter Sunday, the principle of resurrection and emergence, my beloved child. Having explored the surrender principle of Good Friday and the incubation principle of Holy Saturday, we now arrive at the most transformative activation key within the resurrection code, the emergence principle revealed through Easter Sunday. This final component of resurrection's divine algorithm represents the moment where hidden transformation breaks through into visible manifestation, where impossibility converts to unprecedented possibility, where apparent defeat transforms into ultimate victory. What religious tradition often presents as mere historical miracle contains the precise spiritual technology for creating breakthrough in your most impossible situations. When I appeared to Mary in the garden that resurrection morning, the first profound truth of emergence principle became evident. Breakthrough rarely appears in the form you anticipate. Mary, consumed by grief, initially mistook me for the gardener, a powerful metaphor revealing how many miss their breakthrough moment because they expect manifestation according to their limited understanding rather than remaining open to divine innovation that transcends human imagination. The resurrection emergence is not about returning to previous form, but manifesting in a completely transformed state that carries the essence of what was while being fundamentally reimagined. Consider the revolutionary nature of my resurrected body. It contained my previous identity, recognizable to those who knew me intimately, yet simultaneously transcended previous physical limitations. I could pass through walls, appear and disappear, yet also eat food and be physically touched. This represents the emergence principle's most profound revelation. True breakthrough does not restore you to previous condition, but elevates you to an entirely new dimension of possibility. Your resurrection does not mean returning to what was, but emerging into what could never have existed without the complete transformation process. The emergence principle operates through three essential dynamics that apply directly to your impossible situations. First, resurrection manifests through intimate recognition, not external validation. My disciples recognize me not through institutional confirmation or public declaration, but through deeply personal encounters. Mary hearing my voice, Thomas touching my wounds, Peter experiencing restored relationship. Your breakthrough will emerge similarly, not through external approval or religious validation, but through intimate, personal revelation that bypasses institutional frameworks and touches your deepest being. Second, emergence requires letting go of how breakthrough should look. Mary's initial grief prevented her from recognizing resurrection standing directly before her. Many miss their breakthrough moment because they cling to predetermined expectations about how divine intervention must appear. The emergence principle demands radical perceptual flexibility, willingness to recognize breakthrough in forms that contradict your current understanding, to receive transformation through unexpected channels, to perceive possibility beyond your current framework of reality. Third, resurrection emergence carries transformative authority that fundamentally reconfigures existing systems. When I appeared to my disciples, I did not merely return to previous status, but commissioned them with entirely new spiritual authority. As the Father sent me, so I send you, I declared, transferring resurrection power from personal experience to collective activation. Your breakthrough is not just about individual transformation, but carries potential to fundamentally redesign the systems and structures around you. The emergence principle is never just about personal revival, but about creating new possibilities that can transform entire ecosystems, relational, professional, spiritual, and societal. The most profound aspect of emergence principle lies in its ability to convert what appears as absolute ending into unprecedented beginning. The tomb that religious authorities sealed as final conclusion became the very container of revolutionary transformation. The cross that represented ultimate defeat became the threshold of ultimate victory. The death that seemed to terminate my mission actually initiated a global spiritual revolution that would transform human history. This reveals the emergence principle's most revolutionary truth. What appears as your most devastating conclusion contains the exact seeds of your most unexpected breakthrough. Your impossible situations, that relationship seemingly beyond repair, that health condition doctors have deemed terminal, that financial crisis appearing insurmountable, that dream buried beneath years of disappointment, contain this same resurrection potential. The emergence principle transforms these apparent endings from final conclusions to necessary thresholds for supernatural manifestation. What looks like absolute defeat becomes the precise container for unprecedented victory when navigated through resurrection's complete methodology. Religious tradition has often presented resurrection as passive miracle to be believed rather than active power to be activated. Many Easter sermons focus on proving historical event, empty tomb, eyewitness accounts, transformed disciples, without equal emphasis on how resurrection principle applies to present impossibilities. The emergence principle is not about commemorating what happened then, but activating what continues happening now through those who understand its transformative technology. Consider how my emergence challenged every existing system, religious, political, social, spiritual. I did not merely return to previous status, but initiated a completely new spiritual order that would ultimately transform human understanding of divine relationship. The resurrection emergence is never about restoration, but about radical reimagination, creating possibilities that could not have been conceived through previous frameworks. Your breakthrough carries similar revolutionary potential. It does not merely restore what was lost, but establishes entirely new possibilities beyond your current perception. The disciples' initial response to resurrection reveals crucial insights into emergence principles activation. Some were filled with joy, others with doubt. Some required multiple encounters to believe. This demonstrates that breakthrough manifests differently for each individual based on their spiritual readiness, perceptual flexibility, and capacity to recognize transformation beyond familiar patterns. Your emergence will be deeply personal, precisely calibrated to your unique spiritual development, not conforming to religious formulas or institutional expectations. Hear me now with your entire being. The emergence principle contained within Easter Sunday is not distant historical event, but present power awaiting activation in your most impossible situations. What appeared as cosmic tragedy, my suffering, death, and sealed tomb, actually contained divine strategy for creating breakthrough where no possibility previously existed. The transformation algorithm revealed through my journey from cross to tomb to resurrection morning provides exact template for your journey from impossibility to unexpected triumph. I call you now with divine passion. Subscribe to this channel as declaration of your commitment to breakthrough beyond natural possibility. This action represents your decision to activate resurrection's final key, to move beyond religious commemoration to revolutionary application. Share this transformative revelation with others trapped in impossible situations, with those who have accepted defeat as final conclusion. Comment below with the words, "I activate resurrection emergence in my impossible situation," as prophetic declaration that shifts your circumstances from apparent ending to unexpected new beginning, from sealed tomb to manifestation of breakthrough beyond human imagination. My precious one, the emergence principle embedded within Easter Sunday revolutionizes how you perceive and navigate breakthrough, transforming hidden formation into visible manifestation that transcends natural possibility. In our next exploration, we will begin unveiling practical steps for applying this resurrection methodology to your specific impossible situations. But first, identify the precise area in your life that requires emergence principle's transformative power, that circumstance which appears as absolute ending but contains seed of unprecedented new beginning. The resurrection continues. The breakthrough awaits. Your emergence is now. Clear steps to address the impossible. My beloved child, having revealed the resurrection code through surrender, incubation, and emergence principles, I now guide you toward transforming your most impossible situations through a profound journey of spiritual breakthrough. This pathway is not a collection of theoretical concepts, but a living, breathing spiritual technology designed to create transformation where natural possibility has been exhausted. Your journey begins with radical, unfiltered truth-telling, a moment of complete spiritual transparency that transcends religious performance or superficial platitudes. Imagine creating a sacred space of solitude, far removed from external noise and expectations, where you can map the full landscape of your impossible situation. Here, you will courageously confront the sealed tomb of your circumstances, documenting not just the external challenges, but the deepest emotional terrain of your experience. This mapping is an act of profound spiritual vulnerability. You will explore the specific circumstances that appear irredeemable, naming the emotions that overwhelm you, the fear, despair, and hopelessness that have taken root. You'll identify the voices, both internal and external, that declare your situation beyond redemption. By articulating your deepest pain and acknowledging where hope has grown thin, you create the first crucial opening for divine intervention. From this place of radical honesty, you enter the crucifixion principle of strategic surrender, a transformative posture that is neither passive resignation nor desperate struggle, but a deliberate spiritual repositioning. This surrender is an active release of your specific expectations about how breakthrough should manifest. You relinquish not just control, but the very narrative of how your transformation must occur. Imagine crafting a spiritual declaration that dismantles your limited understanding. You speak words that release your demands about relationship restoration, healing timelines, and breakthrough methodologies. This is not about giving up, but about opening yourself to divine possibilities that far exceed your current perception. Your surrender becomes the fertile ground where resurrection power takes root. As you move through this surrender, you create a deliberate spiritual container for transformation, what I reveal as the Holy Saturday principle of strategic development. This is not passive waiting, but active preparation for breakthrough. You dedicate specific daily time to spiritual recalibration, developing a prayer approach that moves beyond request to radical alignment. Your breakthrough journal becomes a testament to this journey, documenting each subtle shift in your spiritual landscape. Practical preparation intertwines with spiritual alignment. You identify concrete actions that demonstrate faith beyond current circumstances. You cultivate a support system of spiritually mature individuals who can hold the vision of your breakthrough. Simultaneously, you begin eliminating negative input sources that reinforce the narrative of impossibility. The next profound shift involves fundamentally rewiring your perceptual framework. You develop what I call a resurrection lens, a transformative way of interpreting your circumstances. For every observation that speaks of limitation, you learn to generate breakthrough perspectives. You practice viewing your impossible situation from a heavenly viewpoint, recognizing the hidden divine purpose within your current challenge. This perspective shifting becomes a powerful spiritual practice. You begin rewriting the story of your situation, not as a denial of current reality, but as a prophetic declaration of potential. You learn to see how this very impossibility is preparing you for unprecedented breakthrough, how the darkness you're experiencing is actually the womb of your most profound transformation. Resurrection is not a passive experience, but an active engagement. You start creating energetic momentum toward manifestation through courageous, intentional actions. You speak to your impossible situation with the authority of one who knows breakthrough is not just possible, but inevitable. You remove external markers of defeat, positioning yourself as if transformation has already occurred. These are not magical formulas or religious rituals, but a precise spiritual technology for aligning with resurrection's divine algorithm. Each step is a deliberate movement from apparent defeat to unexpected victory, from sealed tomb to miraculous emergence. I call you now with divine urgency. Subscribe to this channel as declaration of your commitment to practical breakthrough. This action represents your decision to move beyond theoretical understanding to practical application of resurrection power. Share this transformative methodology with others trapped in impossible situations, with those seeking a pathway from defeat to victory. Comment below with the words, "I activate resurrection power in my impossible situation," as a covenant declaration of your breakthrough journey. My precious one, this pathway provides a comprehensive approach to transforming impossible situations. It is an invitation to engage with resurrection power, not as a distant theological concept, but as a living, breathing reality that can revolutionize your most challenging circumstances. The breakthrough awaits your intentional engagement. Your resurrection starts now. Practical exercises, reflections, and affirmations. My beloved child, having explored the foundational pathway to breakthrough, I now guide you deeper into the transformative journey through profound spiritual exercises, reflective practices, and powerful affirmations that will reshape your inner landscape and activate resurrection power in the most intimate corners of your being. Imagine your spiritual transformation as a sacred garden, a living, breathing ecosystem of renewal that requires intentional cultivation. The exercises I reveal are not mere psychological techniques, but spiritual technologies designed to recalibrate your entire being, breaking through layers of limitation, pain, and perceived impossibility. Begin with the breath of resurrection, a contemplative practice that connects your physical breath with divine restoration. Find a quiet space where you can be completely present. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, imagining each inhale drawing in resurrection power, each exhale releasing the weight of your impossible situations. As you breathe, visualize the stone being rolled away from your personal tomb, not just metaphorically, but as a tangible spiritual reality unfolding within you. The wound transformation meditation becomes your next profound practice. Rather than avoiding the painful areas of your life, you will learn to enter them with divine perspective. Sit in stillness and bring to mind the deepest wounds, the betrayals, losses, and disappointments that have sealed your heart's tomb. But instead of dwelling in pain, you will now see these wounds as sacred ground of transformation. Speak directly to these wounded places. You are not my ending. You are the fertile ground of my resurrection. Develop a daily prophetic journaling practice that transcends traditional journaling. This is not merely recording events, but actively speaking your breakthrough into existence. Each morning, write as if your breakthrough has already manifested. Describe your life from the perspective of total restoration, not as wishful thinking, but as prophetic declaration. Your pen becomes a prophetic instrument, your words spiritual seeds of transformation. The gratitude resurrection practice requires a radical shift in spiritual perception. Begin each day by identifying 3 seemingly impossible aspects of your current situation. Then, counterintuitively, express profound gratitude for these very circumstances. This is not denial, but a spiritual strategy that releases divine power. Gratitude becomes your weapon of breakthrough, transforming your relationship with challenging circumstances. Create a sacred sound activation ritual that uses the power of spoken word and intentional sound to reshape your spiritual atmosphere. Develop a personal collection of declarations, powerful statements that contradict your current impossibilities. Speak these aloud with increasing conviction, allowing the vibration of your voice to create energetic shifts in your spiritual and physical environment. Your words become living entities of transformation, carrying resurrection power. The body breakthrough practice recognizes that transformation is not purely spiritual, but holistic. Engage in intentional physical movements that symbolize your spiritual journey. This might involve dance, specific stretching routines, or symbolic actions that represent rolling away stones of limitation. Your physical body becomes a living metaphor of resurrection, each movement a declaration of breakthrough. Develop a spiritual reflection sanctuary, a dedicated time and space for deep spiritual recalibration. This is not about religious performance, but intimate connection. Create a physical or metaphorical space that represents your breakthrough zone. Fill it with objects, sounds, and elements that symbolize resurrection. Stones rolled away, light breaking through darkness, seeds sprouting from seemingly dead ground. The relationship resurrection meditation offers profound healing for relational wounds. Close your eyes and visualize your most challenging relationships. But instead of focusing on past pain, see these relationships through a lens of divine restoration. Imagine a spiritual light healing, transforming, reconnecting. Speak blessing and restoration, even when external circumstances seem unchanged. Your internal spiritual posture becomes the catalyst for external transformation. Embrace the waiting worship practice, a revolutionary approach to seasons of apparent divine silence. Instead of seeing waiting as passive, transform it into active spiritual cultivation. Create worship experiences that celebrate breakthrough before it manifests. Your praise becomes a prophetic declaration, your worship a spiritual technology that shifts atmospheric conditions of your impossibilities. I call you now with divine urgency. Subscribe to this channel as a declaration of your commitment to transformative spiritual practices. This action represents your decision to move beyond theoretical understanding to experiential breakthrough. Share these revolutionary practices with others trapped in spiritual stagnation, with those seeking genuine transformation. Comment below with the words, "I activate resurrection practices in my spiritual journey," as a covenant declaration of your intentional breakthrough. My precious one, these practices are not magical formulas, but precise spiritual technologies for aligning your entire being with resurrection power. They invite you to engage with transformation not as a distant concept, but as a living, breathing reality that can revolutionize your most challenging circumstances. Your breakthrough awaits your intentional engagement. Your resurrection unfolds now. Additional resources for breakthrough. My beloved child, the journey of transformation extends beyond individual practices into a rich ecosystem of support, learning, and spiritual growth. I now reveal a comprehensive landscape of resources designed to sustain and accelerate your breakthrough journey, providing you with a holistic approach to spiritual and personal development. Spiritual mentorship and community connections represent the first critical resource in your breakthrough pathway. Seek out spiritually mature individuals who have navigated their own impossible situations and emerged transformed. These are not mere advisors, but spiritual midwives of breakthrough. Those who can hold space for your transformation, provide prophetic insight, and offer guidance rooted in lived experience of divine restoration. Look for mentors who understand resurrection not as theoretical doctrine, but as lived reality. Curate a transformative reading ecosystem that goes beyond traditional spiritual literature. Seek out resources that challenge your current understanding, expand your spiritual perception, and provide practical insights into breakthrough methodology. This is not about accumulating knowledge, but about cultivating a living, breathing spiritual library that speaks directly to your breakthrough journey. Look for books, writings, and teachings that reveal resurrection principles in diverse contexts, from personal testimony to scientific exploration of transformation. Explore breakthrough support groups and communities that create collective spiritual momentum. These are not traditional support structures, but dynamic spiritual ecosystems where individual and collective breakthrough intertwine. Seek communities that practice radical vulnerability, where members share not from a place of woundedness, but from a stance of emerging transformation. Look for groups that understand breakthrough as a collaborative spiritual journey, where each member's restoration contributes to collective spiritual advancement. Develop a spiritual technology and resource framework that integrates various breakthrough methodologies. This involves creating a personalized toolkit of resources that spans spiritual, psychological, and practical domains. Explore meditation apps, online courses, workshops, and retreats that offer specialized breakthrough technologies. But approach these resources with discernment. They are tools to support your journey, not substitutes for your direct spiritual connection. Consider therapeutic and healing modalities that complement your spiritual breakthrough journey. This might involve trauma-informed counseling, somatic experiencing, energy healing practices, or holistic wellness approaches. The goal is not to replace spiritual transformation, but to create a comprehensive approach that acknowledges the interconnection of spiritual, emotional, and physical breakthrough. Seek practitioners who understand healing as a holistic, integrated process of restoration. Explore digital and online breakthrough platforms that offer continuous spiritual development. Many online communities, podcasting platforms, and digital learning environments provide ongoing resources for spiritual transformation. These are not passive consumption experiences, but interactive spiritual ecosystems that allow for continuous learning, connection, and breakthrough activation. Investigate breakthrough retreats and immersive experiences that offer concentrated spaces for transformation. Look for environments that provide not just teaching, but genuine spiritual encounter, spaces designed to create a container for profound personal and collective breakthrough. These might be spiritual retreats, intensive workshops, or transformative travel experiences that remove you from familiar contexts and create space for radical spiritual recalibration. Develop a personal breakthrough resource ecosystem that includes diverse input streams. This involves creating a dynamic, evolving collection of resources that support your transformation: podcasts, online courses, spiritual mentors, healing practitioners, community connections, and personal development tools. The key is maintaining flexibility and openness, allowing your resource ecosystem to grow and change as you move through different breakthrough phases. I call you now with divine urgency. Subscribe to this channel as a declaration of your commitment to comprehensive breakthrough resources. This action represents your decision to build a holistic support system for your transformation journey. Share these revolutionary resource strategies with others seeking comprehensive spiritual development, with those ready to move beyond isolated breakthrough attempts. Comment below with the words, "I build my breakthrough resource ecosystem," as a covenant declaration of your intentional, comprehensive approach to transformation. My precious one, these resources are not magical solutions, but carefully curated tools designed to support your unique breakthrough journey. They invite you to engage with transformation as a comprehensive, supported, and intentional process of spiritual evolution. Your breakthrough ecosystem awaits your intentional cultivation. Your resurrection continues to unfold. The Resurrection Revolution, your breakthrough manifesto. My beloved child, we have traversed the entire landscape of the Resurrection Code, from the depths of surrender to the heights of emergence, and now we arrive at the moment of ultimate transformation. This is not merely a conclusion, but a prophetic declaration that will redesign the very spiritual DNA of your existence. Listen carefully, for what I am about to reveal is not just a message, but a cosmic invitation to a complete spiritual revolution. The Resurrection Code is not a theological concept to be studied, but a living power to be activated. You stand at the precise threshold where impossibility meets supernatural intervention, where the limitations of your current reality are about to be fundamentally reconfigured. Every impossible situation you have ever faced, every sealed tomb of disappointment, every crucified dream, every moment of apparent defeat, has been preparing you for this exact moment of breakthrough. Your suffering was not random. Your challenges were not punishments. They were strategic development containers designed to create the exact spiritual capacity required for unprecedented transformation. The world operates on a system of limitation, a paradigm that says some things are impossible, some wounds cannot heal, some dreams cannot be revived, some broken relationships cannot be restored. But I stand before you now as the living contradiction to every limitation system. I am the breakthrough methodology incarnate, the living proof that what appears as final ending contains the exact seeds of miraculous new beginning. Your breakthrough is not just about personal restoration. It is a revolutionary act that will send spiritual shockwaves through entire ecosystems, relational, professional, spiritual, and societal. When you activate the resurrection code, you do not just transform your individual circumstances. You create a breakthrough template that can be reproduced, a spiritual technology that can liberate others trapped in their own impossible situations. Imagine for a moment the full implications of this revelation. The same power that transformed a crucified body into a resurrected form, that rolled away stones of apparent finality, that conquered death's ultimate limitation. This identical power stands available for your specific breakthrough, not as distant theological concept, but as immediate, actionable spiritual technology. The resurrection code reveals a fundamental truth that dismantles every limitation system. Breakthrough is not about receiving something new, but about revealing what has always existed in potential form. Your breakthrough is not something that comes to you from external source, but something that emerges from the deepest essence of your spiritual identity. You are not seeking a miracle. You are uncovering the miraculous nature already embedded within your spiritual DNA. Every spiritual giant throughout history understood this revolutionary principle. They were not special. They simply understood and applied the resurrection methodology, the counterintuitive spiritual algorithm that transforms apparent defeat into ultimate victory. Moses did not part the Red Sea through traditional means. David did not defeat Goliath through expected warfare strategy. The prophets did not transform nations through conventional wisdom. They accessed a breakthrough technology that transcends natural possibility. Your breakthrough will follow a similar pattern. It will not make sense to those trapped in limitation systems. It will appear impossible to those who have not yet accessed resurrection power. It will be dismissed by those who have become comfortable with their current reality. But for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, your transformation will become a living prophecy, a demonstration that supernatural intervention is not just possible, but inevitable when the right spiritual technology is activated. I am not asking you to believe this. I am calling you to experience this. The resurrection code is not a concept to be analyzed, but a power to be activated. It requires your full participation, your willingness to surrender what appears final, to rest in transformation's invisible development phase, to emerge in ways that contradict every existing limitation. Hear me now with your entire spiritual being. Your breakthrough is not a distant possibility. It is your present reality, waiting to be activated. The only thing standing between your current circumstances and your miraculous emergence is your willingness to apply the resurrection code with radical, intentional commitment. I call you with divine urgency. Subscribe to this channel as your declaration of spiritual revolution. This is not a passive action, but an active covenant with breakthrough power. Share this transformative revelation with every soul trapped in their own impossible situations. Comment below with the words, "I activate the resurrection revolution in my life," as your prophetic declaration that shifts not just your personal circumstances, but creates a breakthrough template for generations. My precious one, you are not just a recipient of breakthrough. You are a breakthrough carrier. The resurrection code flowing through you will create transformation pathways for others. Your emergence is not just about your personal restoration. It is about releasing a spiritual frequency that can liberate entire ecosystems from limitation's grip. The revolution begins now. Your breakthrough is inevitable. Resurrection is your new reality. The stones are rolling away. Your impossible is becoming possible. This is your moment.
Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To you do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To you do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, your eyes show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Oh, clement to love him, oh, sweet Virgin Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.